The Battle of Megiddo was the first battle to have been recorded in what is accepted as relatively reliable detail. It was fought between Egyptian forces and a large rebellious coalition of Canaanite vassal states led by the king of Kadesh. Egyptian troops were armed with bronze spears, daggers, and axes, and additionally bows. Chariots were used as well. The Assyrian army was ruthlessly conquering other territories with their use of iron weaponry, which was superior to the brittle bronze weapons that were still being used at the time. In terms of archaeological evidence, crossbow locks made of cast bronze have been found in China dating to around 650 BC. The earliest Chinese documents mentioning a crossbow were texts from the 4th to 3rd centuries BC. The earliest known depiction of a phalanx-like formation occurs in the Sumerian stele of the vultures. Traditionally, historians date the origin of the hoplite phalanx of ancient Greece to the 8th century BC in Sparta, but this is under revision. Philip's II phalangites were armed with longer spears and were drilled more thoroughly in more evolved, complicated tactics and maneuvers. Phalanx reached its zenith in the conquests of Alexander the Great. Romans were first to create a standing professional army. After the Second Punic War, Roman army mutated from a temporary force based entirely on short-term conscription to a standing army. Later the first emperor, Augustus, gradually instituted legions and turned them into professional force. Late Roman army couldn't stop the barbarian horde. In 476, the Germanic barbarian King Odoacer deposed the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire in Italy, Romulus Augustulus. Early medieval armies seems to be a downgrade compared to Roman legions from their best times. Greek fire was an incendiary weapon used by the Eastern Roman Empire beginning AD 672. Used to set enemy ships on fire, it consisted of a combustible compound emitted by a flame-throwing weapon. Some historians said it could be ignited on contact with water, and was probably based on naphtha and quicklime. The first confirmed reference to what can be considered gunpowder in China occurred in the 9th century AD during the Tang dynasty. Later it was used to make fireworks, but first truly effective firearms were manufactured many ages later. The cannon may have appeared as early as the 12th century in China. Some sources claim that Egyptians invented it around 13th century. The oldest extant cannon in Europe is a small bronze example from the early mid-14th century. Europeans obtained firearms in the 14th century. First hand cannons were inaccurate and their fire rate was very slow, but they could penetrate armor of knights at short range. Common use of firearms made formations of infantry with shields ineffective. By about 1420, complete suits of plate armor had been developed in Europe. It was peak of armorsmithing. Pike and shot was a historical infantry tactical formation that first appeared during the Italian wars of the late 15th and early 16th centuries, and was used until the development of the bayonet in the late 17th century. This type of formation combined soldiers armed with pikes and soldiers armed with arquebuses or muskets. A revolver is a repeating handgun that has at least one barrel and uses a revolving cylinder containing multiple chambers for firing. In 1836, American Samuel Colt patented a popular revolver which led to the widespread use of the revolver. Their fire rate was much higher than single-shot handguns. The first practical self-powered machine gun was invented by Sir Hiram Maxim. The first combat use of the Maxim occurred on 1893 in modern-day Zimbabwe when 700 police troops of the British South Africa Company's police were attacked by 3,500 Matabele warriors. Artillery underwent a revolution during World War I. It was much more precise than in the past. In 1914, cannons were positioned in the front line and fired directly at their targets. By 1917, indirect fire with guns was commonplace. Tanks would go on to fight in history's first tank action at the Somme in September 1916. They surprised and frightened Germans as they had never seen something like that before. The French pioneered the use of a full 360 degrees rotation turret in a tank for the first time, with the creation of the Renault FT light tank, with the turret containing the tank's main armament. Nuclear weapons have been deployed twice in war. By the United States against the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 during World War II.